Hi, and welcome to week 5 in Social Work 633, Social Work Practice with Families. Congratulations, you have now made it more than halfway through the course. And we are shifting our focus this week to begin to look at practices of contextual family therapy. And this is an approach that really begins to involve systemic aspects of families, such as family loyalty, family legacy, and what we know as the family ledger. And the interesting thing about contextual family therapy is that, it's really a non-directive form of therapy that works to promote a type of mutual understanding and trust, works to foster a dialogue between family members, and through this makes changes possible. So this draws from findings of psychoanalysis, existential philosophy, systems theory, and interestingly enough, ethics. So the focus of this is kind of the idea that disturbances in individuals and families are really just an expression and almost a consequence of a system of imbalance that is happening in this giving and taking, this entitlement and fulfillment, and particularly in the realm of caring. And this really builds upon the articles that we've had just about the caretaking role that many MSW students play in their families, as well as some of what people have talked about in their introductions. Roles that people have held as caregivers in families. So in contextual family therapy, there is this work to really try to balance this ledger of merits and demerits by giving this sense of mutual responsibility. So it works to really imbue a sense of justice to, what's happening for the family, but also the individual and the integrity of some interpersonal relationships. Also within this week, we're going to look at a type of psychodynamic approach that is really under the umbrella of contextual family therapy. And this we see as emotionally focused couples therapy and object relations family therapy. Both involve the nature of emotional attachment and look at developmental factors or historical events. And so I just want to highlight emotionally focused therapy and emotion focused therapy. They're sort of interchangeably used, EFT. It's just a family of related approaches, and it really connects with psychotherapy and can be done with individuals, couples, or families. And so there's some elements of experiential therapy in here. There's some systemic therapy and also attachment theory, really as a foundation of this type of therapy. It's usually short term, 8 to 20 sessions, and the entire premise is that human emotions are intimately connected to human needs. And so there's this innately changing and adaptive potential that, if you can really activate these emotions and if they can be worked through and sifted through, they can help individuals and their families change interactions that are really problematic and emotional states that are connected to those interactions. So within these two major classes of therapy, you will find lots of different variations that are happening. So our objectives and readings for the week will begin to focus on this. And you can see that our objectives, it's really to be able to know and describe key concepts of contextual family therapy. And this is something your week 5 theory grid will work to distill. As far as the theory grids, everyone is really beginning to get in a flow with these, really incorporating some of the feedback about embedding examples, use of description, but working to make it concise. and doing formatting tricks to really make it visually clear throughout your theory grid, so that when you can look at this theory grid later, when you're working with families or doing your final integrative paper, you're able to quickly look at some of the concepts, remember them with accuracy, and utilize them. So it's just a great way to be able to apply this. The second major objective is to be able to know and describe some key concepts of EFT or the objective relations therapy. And our third objective is to describe typical interventions. Again, this is what you are focusing on in the theory grid, and also some of the interventions used in a video of emotionally focused couples therapy session that we'll have you watch. So our readings for this week will really highlight some of this work. And you can see there are 3 articles or chapters below. This is an article. There is a chapter down below here, and a scanned chapter here. And then, as previous weeks, we'll ask you to choose one of the following. And in this section, we really try to present a variety of different perspectives that will give you a holistic and well-rounded understanding of different types of families. And this is an area that I urge you to think about when you are highlighting the cross-cultural considerations. Think about these articles, because in these articles, the authors really try to touch upon some considerations with different types of families. As in prior weeks, we provide you with 2 websites, Contextual Family Therapy website and Emotionally Focused Therapy. We ask you to explore this and really try to pull some key concepts from these websites and what some of the training opportunities are. And last of all, to look through the 2 types of media below. One is a emotionally focused couples therapy video, and it's really where Sue Johnson is working with a couple who's on the brink of divorce, and through working with emotions, and especially emotions behind the emotions, there is kind of some hope and change that spring up, and that this couple begins to do some healing around. And the second type of media is a podcast. And this is Voices in the Family. And you are only required to listen to 18 minutes of this podcast, but of course you're encouraged to listen to as long as you want. And you'll see that there's discussion forums that ask you to reflect on each. So the first discussion forum is actually really trying to support you in preparing for what will be your final integrative paper. And just as a reminder of this assignment is, so your final integrative paper will include a genogram and also be a more extensive assessment and analysis of a family and potential theories that may support working with this family and potential approaches. And so for this, you are going to choose a present or past clinical case. So you have already completed this type of work on your own family of origin, and now we're asking you to transfer that perspective, everything you've learned in that process, and focus on a client family. And we want to make sure that in this, you're able to use some of the skills that you have been learning throughout this course. So for this discussion forum, what I ask you to do is in your initial post to follow a couple different steps. One is that you want to think about what present or past clinical family you want to work with. And you want to make sure that you don't include any identifying information about this family, of course. So step 1 is really going through some of the resources that have been presented in previous weeks as you've been learning about genograms. Again, this is on a client family. And so after you've reviewed some of that material, and you'll move into the portion where you are going to draw a genogram on this family. And we ask that you have at least 3 generations represented in here. Now, this may be challenging if this is a past clinical case. And so we ask for you to choose a family that you may have as much information as you can about. It would be wonderful if you can actually ask someone about those 3 different generations. But this may not be possible. And so similar to our family of origin genogram, when there's missing information or missing pieces, that you can indicate that with a question mark. And so you'll draw this genogram, you'll highlight any patterns that may show up across generations, and really you want to be able to draw it by hand. I recommend on computer paper so you don't see the lines, and then just take a picture like you did with your last genogram and scan it. Make sure you include a title and a key. And for the third step, I'm going to ask you to post, and while you're uploading the genogram, write a short assessment of the family. Really talk about some of your hypotheses about what is causing the problem, any life cycle or sociocultural issues. Again, these are things that you have looked at, especially in the beginning of the course, and family strengths. And describe any issues that you have encountered when you were creating this genogram. So, was this process easy or difficult? What did you learn that surprised you? And how do you think you would, that this activity could help a client, or how you would like to do it differently the next time? And so with that initial post, you will also respond to at least one classmate and just say what you've learned from their post and what can you do to add or enhance their learning. And I think the class has been doing really, really well at expanding on each other's learning. But again, ways you can do this is through a question, presenting an alternative perspective, additional thoughts, or connecting them with a resource within the post. Just a reminder that the ideal for discussion forums is really to remain within the guidelines of minimum 200 words, maximum 500 words. And, this can be extremely challenging because what it forces you to do is be incredibly concise and yet include enough detail that you're responding adequately to the question and really showing some critical thinking. But this does mirror what we do in social work, that we're always given sort of a limited amount of time and space to make our case and make our best argument. The second discussion forum is focused on the Johnson emotionally focused therapy film and also the article. And so I'll ask you to just respond to the 3 questions that are there below. And you are encouraged to be able to respond to peers, but you don't have to in this forum. Our final discussion forum for this week is reflection on the Voices in the Family Talk. And there is a contextual family therapy resource. And hint, this family therapy resource is just really essential and helpful when you do your theory grid. It lists the major key concepts and some about the interventions. So I'll ask you to just respond to each of the 3 questions. You do not have to respond to peers in this form, but of course you're always encouraged. The final assignment for this week is to submit your weekly theory grid, and this is due on Sunday. And we suggest and encourage you to end the week with our self-care activity. We have been purposefully embedding this in each course to promote our understanding of self-care, to prevent vicarious trauma as caregivers ourselves in our family lives as well as in social work. With that, have a wonderful week 5. And I look forward to seeing your responses throughout.